Welcome to M&G Agency Life, your regular dose of creativity, insights, and all things Mearns and Gill.
Join us on this whirlwind journey through the world of marketing, design, and digital.
We'll also talk brand, events, media, and lots more.
Like what happens behind the scenes?
Yeah, and the latest industry trends. We've got you covered.
So get ready to dive into the world of agency.
Right, shall we do this?
Oh, heck yes.
Welcome to episode 8 of M&G Agency Life.
Yep, last week we heard about PR and this week is all about account management.
Yeah, account management. So we've covered a lot of services. We've spoken about podcasts, we've discussed brand, design, websites, digital, PR, and now we're going to dig into what some might call the backbone of the agency, account management. We're going to try and chat to all of the AM team as we get through this podcast, but joining us at the start to kick things off is the account management team lead. It's Andrew Spence, everybody.
Hello.
Andrew,
you for having me.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Pete.
Thank you for coming back into the podcast room.
Obviously did a good enough job you've invited me back. So
You joined us a couple of episodes ago when we spoke about digital. Today we're going to get more into the nitty gritty of account management. So you head up the account management team.
I do indeed.
What's that like on a day-to-day basis, your role?
My role, I suppose, if we start with the role of the account management team, that's kind of the liaison between the agency, the studio and the clients. So yeah, just that real kind of middleman, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah, but
woman.
also making it all happen, pulling everything together to bring it all together.
Yeah, absolutely. We're responsible for managing and developing all aspects of those client relationships. So yeah, it's kind of a key role for the agency.
Okay, so Andrew, what does the day-to-day kind of look like for you as being part of the account management team?
I suppose for us as account managers, it's lots of emails. My mates joke about that as my job, but I actually think there's a lot more to it than just sending emails.
Yeah.
We're that primary point of contact for the client, so we coordinate all the projects, doing our very best to keep them happy at all times. It's lots of planning, I suppose, to-do lists, scheduling, and most importantly, kind of catching up regularly with your clients and just making sure that contact's there.
So a lot more than just sending emails.
Yeah, I'd definitely say so. And I think with it as well, it's all about being proactive. So encouraging, I encourage that as much as possible in the team. Regular client catch-ups, lots of calls. I think face-to-face or in-person meetings are really important too. I think on the back of COVID, it became quite easy to just do a Teams call or jump on Zoom. But I think when you have those kind of catch-ups, they're very much outcome-driven. Whereas I think in the face-to-face meetings, that's where you can kind of scratch beneath the surface with your clients and find out a little bit more about what their pain points or what they're really needing.
Okay.
So I kind of say that to the team as well. And how often do you do them? I think it's different per client, but the communication is really important.
So Andrew, you've been with the agency for quite a while. You've been here for 10 years, you told us.
And just over indeed.
On a previous episode. So, I mean, you've got a lot of experience under your belt. What do you think makes good account management best practice?
Best practice. I think it's probably around, I think I've said already, but that accessibility. So within reason, I suppose other members of the team might say I'm probably kind of one of the worst for not being able to switch off. But when it comes to my clients and how I work, that just works for me.
Okay.
Get back to your clients quickly. I think if an email comes in, even if it's not something you can action that day or get to, acknowledge it, give them a realistic expectation on when you will be able to get back to them with something. I think just making sure they know is better than not hearing back.
Yeah, so acknowledging and just kind of having some form of communication in place.
100%. And I think as cheesy as it sounds, it's about trying to make every client feel like you're their most important client. I suppose if you're thinking of a high school analogy, it's probably, if you're not their most important, make sure they're in your top 3. They need to feel that love. And I think that's just key to me is, clients will have different spends, clients will have different requirements, but they all need to feel important. And I think that's what we try and kind of instill in all the team. I think for me, it comes back to that being proactive rather than reactive. And I think for a lot of our clients, we are kind of their marketing team. They maybe don't have any in-house marketing resource, or it's a limited in-house marketing resource. So I think it's important for us to not just be actioning what they come to us with, but be part of their team, coming up with ideas and helping them grow their business in the first place.
And that's a good point, becoming an extension of their team. I often hear trusted advisor getting batted about a lot when it comes to an account manager. And I guess by that it means that you want to be seen as someone who can advise your client on what they should be doing, as opposed to just waiting and kind of being responsive and, handling their requests.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's when the kind of face-to-face meetings and all that become really important too, because quite often I'll be down seeing a client about something totally different, but kind of at the end of the meeting or at the start of the meeting, we end up speaking about something that, an opportunity they've maybe had come to them, and they're just sounding us out on whether we think it's the right thing. And I suppose it comes down to, well, what we're trying to achieve, and does that fit in with the strategy? And
I suppose just kind of on that note, in terms of catching up with your clients, do you hold regular client catch-ups that are maybe not project specific, but do you go back and look at what we've done, what we could be doing better, or do you have regular frequent catch-ups? How often do you kind of do this with your clients?
Yeah, I think every client's different with that, but with all my clients I kind of have a start of the year planning session where we do a review of what we did last year, what went well, what maybe didn't go so well. Not everything works perfectly, and then we look at what we want to do for the year ahead. We look at any key milestones that are coming. Is there any certain promotions or campaigns we need to build into that timeline? And then we look at what gaps there are there. And the main thing I try to do with most of the clients is at the very least have a kind of bi-weekly catch up. Now that might last 10 minutes, that might last an hour, but it's keeping that regular communication there. With some clients it's weekly, so it just really depends. It's about getting the right balance of that, but I think actually it's about investing that time in your clients. And I think in account management you might be really busy with a lot of tasks to do, but that's a real key part to growing your clients and developing your clients in the right direction.
So you do a lot of juggling, don't you?
There's always a lot of juggling, yeah. There's an analogy that Mike, our MD, uses about the wolf that's closest to the sleigh.
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot of tasks, and sometimes you've just got to pick which one do you tackle first. But it is like that in account management. I think if you probably like that in a lot of jobs, to be honest. But it's about juggling those requirements and just trying to make sure you keep everyone happy. You don't miss any key deadlines. Sometimes you need to go back to the client and say, actually, that's going to fall into next week. And in most cases, a client will be fine with that unless it's one that can't push for obvious reasons.
So time management is a massive part of your role because you're managing your own time, the client's time. You're probably trying to protect our team's time in terms of how long they might spend on a piece of design or a web project and that whole kind of scope of work across the business.
Yeah, the time management comes in, I think, in a lot of areas because, it's a resource piece, but it's also in terms of budget. You know what I mean? So how much time we can afford to spend on a client project based on what the client expects us to be spending on it. So time management's huge in account management. It's probably one of the biggest challenges. So a lot of juggling, but it's good. It's fast paced. It keeps us on our toes. We love it. So
it's the environment that you thrive on, isn't it?
I do. It's a cheesy line, but I thrive in that environment, Pete.
So from a client point of view then, are there any account management red flags they should be aware of?
Red flags.
Good question.
I think probably a lot of it would be the opposite of what we've spoken about already, which is the kind of good things. But I think the main one, and I've kind of used the word a few times, this is getting blown up, but is that proactiveness.
Yeah.
So I think if you've got an account manager that's not proactive, that would be a kind of worry for me because you want them to be coming to you with ideas and doing more than just servicing your requests. And then another thing which probably isn't so much a red flag, but it is something that's important in account management to recognise is no one's perfect. We're all human. We can all make mistakes. I've certainly made some in my 10 years. I'm not going to go into them. We can save that for a different podcast. But there is some there, I'm sure.
That one time you made a mistake.
I'd have to go back a few years, but I'm sure there's one. But no, we do. And being honest, we all make mistakes at times. And I think it's the worst thing you can do probably as account management, in an account management role, is not to own that mistake. So I think, own it, go to the client straight away, be transparent, and work with them to make it right. Clients much prefer you to be honest and have a plan to make it right. And that's kind of really important. And I suppose if that doesn't work, my other fail-safe is blame the studio.
Are you that guy that throws his colleagues under a bus at any opportunity?
See, the studio might say I would, but no, I never would, to be honest.
But I guess a good point you make there is that whole problem solving is a massive part of account management as well. Being able to think on your feet and resolve and find your way around things that might not go smoothly.
Yeah, and I think things can happen, whether it's someone's being couriered and it's got lost on the way for an event or a show a client's attending or a range of things, but it's about kind of, as an account manager for that client, regardless of where it's gone wrong or in that cycle, you're in charge of that client, work with the client, make it right. Yeah. And it's not about the blame. It totally isn't. It's not the studio side, it's not the courier side, it's just let's make it right. And that's what matters.
Some great points to get the podcast started there, Andrew. Right, we're going to introduce some of the other members of the account management team. So joining us now in the podcast room, you've met her before. You may remember her from episode 2, the podcast about podcasts. She is another podcaster, but also an account manager here at Mearns & Gill. It's Isla.
Hello.
Welcome
Hi,
back.
everyone. Thanks for having me back.
It's great
Sorry
to have
in
you back.
advance.
How have you been since episode 2?
It's been so good. Yeah, I've been watching it. I've been watching the success. It's gone global.
I know. Can you believe it? We've got listeners in Hong Kong, USA, New Zealand, Australia,
Check us go.
and lots in Aberdeen as well.
Never look back.
We're loving the stats. Isla, you're an account manager here at Mearns & Gill, and you're also mama to the office dog, Betty Hope.
I love my dog so much.
Where is little Betty Hope today?
She has had to go home. She was here this morning. Sometimes it's a juggle. So she was in the office this morning, but had I think 5 back-to-back meetings this afternoon. So she's at home in her little crate chilling though.
We were going to start by talking about your role, but let's talk about Betty Hope a little bit more. What breed is Betty Hope?
She's an Imperial Shih Tzu.
Okay.
Which means she's slightly smaller. So she's classed as a toy dog.
Yeah.
But what she lacks in size, she makes up for in sass. And
Very sassy.
she's very hairy just now. She needs a haircut, which isn't working well for her.
So is Andrew.
In the heat wave. They have so much in common.
We'll come back to Betty Hope, but let's talk about your role, because you, like all the account managers here, do a lot of juggling. Tell us about your role and what you encounter on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so I get into trouble for calling myself this, but I stand by it. I think sometimes I am a bit, in a really good way, a jack of all trades, master of none.
Okay.
I kind of feel like it's just spinning plates. I guess me specifically, I have a role that I have 1 foot in the events team and 1 foot in the account management team. So I work on some conferences, some annual dinners, some schools initiatives, a really great competition for schools, a health and wellbeing festival. And on the other hand, I'm helping to build websites. I mean, helping in the loosest sense of the word. I account manage websites, digital campaigns, dabble in a bit of PR. Every day is different. There are lots of plates, but I love it that way.
But I guess that whole thing about being a jack of all trades in account management and kind of knowing a little bit about every part of the business is quite important. Andrew, what do you reckon?
I would agree. I think it may be seen as a negative term, but in this case, we are that. We need to have a level of knowledge across everything. And I think the team have actually got an excellent level of knowledge across everything. Isla does herself a disservice. But that's why we have the studio team and that around us, so that we can go to the experts in their areas. So we are that connection between the client, between the studio, between the web team. So that works. It's you are a jack of all trades because you need to be. Yeah. And you're also a semi-master of all trades.
That's you.
I like that.
But do you know what? I think you're right in what you said. I think one of the real skills in our job is knowing which of the experts to bring in for which client. It's like, there's a level that we can do ourselves, but more often than not, it's about bringing in the key people to help deliver things.
It's about not being scared to do that either.
Yeah,
and that's why it works.
Yeah, because teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so we've been chatting about best practice for account management. When do you know you've done the right by your client?
I think that's a very good question. And I don't know if I'll give it the answer that you want me to give it in this. But for me, you know that a client is happy and you've done good by them because you're talking to them and you're working with them. You're kind of hand in hand in them with projects. When it's good, when it's bad, when there's obstacles, when there's challenges. I know a lot of what we do is dependent on, stats and numbers and reach and all these kind of things. And that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I suppose a lot of my thing is just regular communications. You see the results for some of what I do. The event has lots of people on it. The campaign has been seen. The client has made lots of sales. So I guess, there's stats everywhere. But for me, a better gauge is talking to people and weekly updates and just being right in the middle of their project with them and knowing you've got to where you needed to be.
Yeah, and I guess if your clients keep coming back to you, you know that they're happy with the service that you're giving them and that life is all good.
Yeah, and I guess that's what we are about here is long-term clients and just doing what we can to keep clients, to build those relationships with them. So that's the goal.
So I guess there's the anecdotal piece from clients that tell you're doing a great job and you know they're happy. But like you kind of pointed towards there's all the metrics and the measurables that you might get from some of the digital activity that you guys do as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think just to add in, Taylor, we've got more access, or we've got access to more data than we ever did.
Yeah.
So I think that that has made our roles easier and more difficult, I think, because we can be judged far more than we ever could be. And I think sometimes as well with that data, a lot of data is open to interpretation or how you analyse that data. But I think, like what Isla was saying, the key is the communication. What were the objectives of the campaign or the project? Have we achieved that? Is the client happy? The client might be happy, we might not be quite where we want to be, so we can challenge ourselves further on that. I think making sure the client is happy is first and foremost.
Yeah. And do you know what I quite like about numbers? I feel like I'm a loose cannon. I'm going to get into trouble.
No, please go ahead. Let that cannon fire away.
We can always cut it out.
I feel like there's, for people working primarily in digital, but maybe across all parts of an industry now, it's more okay to talk about when the numbers, it's trial and error a lot of what we're doing. And we're not always saying, this is going to be right first time. Look at this, 100%. We're like,
about optimizing it.
Yeah, we're like, okay, we've made some progress there. Or that didn't go quite how we thought. So what can we do? What was wrong? What was changed? So using the numbers and then changing behaviour accordingly. And it's all a big mashup of everything.
Yeah, the data influences the iterative approach that we take. And I think that's certainly the case in digital, or the A/B testing that we can do with digital that, I still love print and some of the traditional media. I think radio is brilliant. Like we did an event we were promoting for a client weekend past, and we ran that on radio, ran that on digital. People that were coming in, the feedback from the sales advisor was, lots of people were talking about hearing it on the radio because they were asking, where did you hear about it? They'd seen the Facebook campaign and the Instagram campaign. So, being able to get that feedback from the client, we know we're kind of doing it right, but when we also hear that stuff back as well, we're like, yes, nailed it.
And it's funny that you say that again, and this is about to be the longest podcast in the world. TV advertising is the same. Is that it's, like we dabble in different things, but I have one client in particular that's got a TV ad that he hasn't changed for 3 years now because it's so successful for him. He knows when that's running, he's going to get the calls, he gets visits to his website, and it's fun.
If it isn't broke, then why fix it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, look, Isla, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to say goodbye to you for now, and we're going to bring in our next... I feel like this is a game show. We're going to bring in our next contestant. Thank you, Isla.
Bye.
See you later.
Let's meet our next account manager. And now, by royal appointment... Graham!
Yay!
Thank you.
But by royal appointment, because one of your clients is the Balmoral Estate.
Yeah. So I manage quite a few clients, and Balmoral Estate is one of them. I suppose some are more ad hoc support, but I'm really lucky to have a great set of long-term partnerships that I work with on an ongoing basis. It's a real mix. You got ASPC, Balmoral Estate, Buchan Offshore Wind, Control Cutter, Tingbro, Emergenetics, IT Works, Isolate, Road Safety and Survival, and a lot more. But
quite a client portfolio there. And I should say, Graham, I didn't give you a full introduction. You're an account manager, and of course, you have been on the podcast before, so you're familiar with this room. You joined us when we spoke about digital marketing a couple of weeks ago, and now we're kind of going to go more into your role and talk about account management.
Yes, that's a long list of clients you work for there. Tell us about the variety of work that you do for them.
Yeah, it's a real mix. It kind of varies across all the services that we offer here at Mearns & Gill. It might be advertising and media orders, getting their brand out there on billboards or radio. On the flip of that, you're doing web projects, brand projects, quite a lot of digital work, sort of organic and paid social media, display advertising, SEO. So really across the board, and it is good to have that mix, and it's great when you can support clients with a range of these services as well, and really help guide them to the areas that will offer best value.
Yeah.
So again, quite a mix of different projects. And we were just chatting with Isla, who you must have met on the way in when she was on the way out.
I've met her once or twice, yeah.
And Isla had kind of made the point that to be an account manager, you generally have this kind of knowledge of a bit of knowledge about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of like the generalist approach, which works well for me. I really enjoy that, and I think it's nice to kind of know a bit about everything, not necessarily specialise in it, but get to be involved in every piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's exciting, and it also means you get to then engage with and talk to a variety of different people who are specialists in the subject and learn from them. So yeah, no, it is a bit of a master of wait, what was it?
Isla just said this.
Exactly. She just said that.
Yeah.
A jack of all trades, but a master of none.
That's the one.
But that is
we
the
changed
reason.
it to a master of some.
A master of some. I would say maybe a master of being a generalist.
But that's why we have all these experts within the business. You guys have to pull it together and talk to the right people who will give our clients the best solutions.
Absolutely.
So what do you find, Graham, most rewarding in account management?
Yeah, good question, Pete. I think what I love most is probably being able to engage with clients and really have like really interesting conversations about their business, also build relationships on a personal level. I think, there's a lot of great folk that we work with, and being that account manager, you have the opportunity to actually go out and speak to all these people. So it's really good to have those chats. I think as well, you often find yourself in really bizarre situations, and I kind of pause and think, like, how did I end up here? Like, how did life get me to this bit? And it's awesome that it has, because it's, you could be anywhere on site at a client. And
give us an example.
Well, one time you might just be in a warehouse with a client, but then other times I've been on like the ballroom floor at Balmoral taking photos of an exhibition by myself, no one else there. Just really bizarre situations. You're like, how did my life actually get me to this point? And I love that it has, because it is fun. It's work, but it is actually fun. And then I go back and tell everyone and tell my friends and stuff. So it's actually really cool to be able to talk so positively about your work.
Yeah.
It's not boring.
And I think we touched on it earlier. I think that's one of the main things I love about the kind of account management role in our business. It's maybe different to maybe like marketers that work in-house, and that's just the variety.
Yeah.
Like with the variety of clients, the different projects, like no 2 days are the same, and like I love it. That's kind of what we live for.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's a lot of skills involved in your job. Andrew, do you have any more to add to that?
I don't know, skills. When the client's giving you a brief, it's supposed to just taking the time to understand it properly.
Yeah.
Be a good listener, something I always need to work on myself.
Skills. Okay.
But yeah, be a good listener. And I think it's just, and if you aren't sure about something, actually don't be scared to go back and ask more questions.
And I think actually the thing there is asking the right questions. That's probably one of the biggest skills of account management as well, because the client can share their brief, but sometimes you need some more probey questions that get in about and actually understand exactly what needs to happen. So it's just asking the right ones.
Good listening, good communications, and then being curious enough to ask the right questions. You made a point about building relationships, and I think that's obviously really important just for the longevity of accounts. And there's a lot of good things that you can do there to build on client relationships, such as sharing useful insights, whether it's I saw this LinkedIn article you might be interested in, or even inviting them along to events. Yeah,
or just taking a donut and having a chat.
Bringing in a donut.
It's good. It is classic. It is good to keep it relaxed though, because I want them to enjoy the marketing as well and actually enjoy their time with us.
Yeah.
I've actually had people say that I look forward to your meetings, because I feel like you have meetings all day with lots of suppliers and that, and then they come to their marketing activity and it's like, actually, this is fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a boring meeting. So,
and you brought the donuts.
And I got the donuts, got the goods.
And it's nice to be that positive part of, and I guess that's another kind of trait of an account manager, is having that positivity.
Yeah. No, you got to keep it going and keep them happy as well, because marketing is happy. It should be positive. It's trying to promote their business, promote their products and services in a way that, speaks to their target audience, but is exciting at the same time and isn't
getting their audience to engage with it.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, look, Graham, thank you for joining us. A bit of a curveball before you leave, and we bring in the next account manager. Most embarrassing moment at Mearns & Gill?
There's been a few. And Andrew's always taking the mickey out of me for everything on a daily basis.
Surely not.
Yep. I give as good as I get though. So.
Right.
But no, I'd say probably Cappuccino Gate.
Cappuccino Gate? Tell me more.
Yep. So this most embarrassing moment at Mearns & Gill was actually before I joined Mearns & Gill.
What?
Story goes, I came into reception for my interview.
Yep.
And GG was on reception and asked if I'd like a tea or coffee. I quite strongly replied, yeah, I'll have a cappuccino. And for anyone that doesn't know, Mearns & Gill we don't have a fancy coffee machine.
We have an espresso machine, which is nice.
Not many workplaces.
The thing I would add though, Aimee, back at the time when Graham came for his interview, you were lucky if you got a tub of Nescafe in a kettle.
I remember Gillian sort of pausing, and I was like, God, that was a bit weird. Why did she just pause there? And then she went off. And I think Isla ran downstairs and was helping her, and they were panicking in the kitchen, saying,
how do I make a cappuccino?
Do I froth it up in the microwave, or what do I do? And I think they all thought it was a power play for my interview to be
right. Tactics.
I'm here and I'll have a cappuccino, please.
So it's good to know that you joined the business despite the fact that we don't have our own in-house barista.
Yep. I'm still here.
All right, everybody, thank you very much. Graham.
Thank you.
feel like you need a round of applause. So now that Graham's left the room, what is the real most embarrassing thing, Andrew, that he's done?
The most embarrassing thing he does regularly is whenever he's on the karaoke, he can't just sing the song normally.
Right.
He has to do an operatic voice.
Wow.
What was it last time, Aimee?
It was like Teenage Dirtbag or something, and he was proper giving it beatings. It was wild.
Gotta love him. We have a talented team.
Yes.
So we're now joined by Sarah. Hello.
Hi, how
So
are
Sarah,
you?
you were with us on the podcast just last week when we were talking about all things PR.
I was. It was great fun. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming back. Today we're kind
Absolutely.
of delving more into account management, and your role is slightly different to the rest of the account managers that we have, in that you are specifically more involved in the PR side of the business.
Yes, that is right, Pete. So, I guess, what does account management look like in PR?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for asking your own
I
question.
preempted your question. I'm quite good at that because that's what I've got to do for my
Okay.
job. So, I've kind of split it into 4. So, I guess in terms of account management with a PR focus, I probably look at strategy, planning, writing, and relationships.
Okay.
That's how I like to break it down. The strategic part always comes first. What are the objectives for the client? What are the aims? So that always kind of has to be at the forefront. Planning is crucial for any account manager. I don't know what anyone else has said before me, but I'm hoping that's been part of the conversation.
That has been mentioned.
And obviously we have multiple clients as well. So account management across multiple clients, across multiple sectors, planning plays a pretty important part, if not the most important part. I guess the difference with me in terms of the account management piece for PR is I write all the time.
Yeah.
About everything across every sector. So, and back to relationships as well. So account management and PR, people have to trust me. There has to be confidentiality agreements that are sometimes required, NDAs, 3 things we're talking about. So the client always has to put their confidence in trusting me and know that I'll be that trusted advisory to help them through.
And Sarah, you know what? See, someone else said that line that I said earlier. There we go.
Wow,
And
there
Sarah,
you go.
it's not just the clients that need to trust you. It's going on from what you told us last week when you made someone work with a goat.
Yeah, so never work with animals and children.
Yeah.
I've done both across PR stories. The one you're talking about specifically, Pete, is when I had a lovely socialite who was wonderful and beautiful and glamorous, and she trusted me to entrust her with a goat to
I
walk
love
down
that.
the high street in London for a PR stunt. I just need to caveat that it wasn't just for fun; it was for press.
Yeah, so how can you take a proactive approach in PR in account management?
I think, Aimee, being proactive, it's absolutely having regular updates with clients. You need to be on top of what they're doing, where they're going, who they're talking to, whether that's conferences across the world. I have a client who has trips out to Australia this week. So regular catch-ups, understanding what the team are doing, where they're going to be, and just asking questions. I'm always inquisitive, and that's how you kind of unearth, I guess, the news stories or what I know to be a news story. They might not personally think that it's news, but I think throughout the conversations, you just start to unearth more things that maybe make up editorial or news stories. So
Yeah, we spoke about the importance of listening and asking good questions, but in your role, because you are trying to unearth some pretty important stuff, it's obviously very important.
Absolutely. And then I think just proactively, just being an extension of the team, I think it's really good to be visible as well with a client. You don't have to be there all the time, but you definitely want people to know who you are and what you're doing. So I always like to see myself as an extension of the team as opposed to like a third-party supplier.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the one thing I would just add on to that as well, Pete, is with Sarah, which I think is great for us, you're talking about being an extension of the team of the clients. As part of the account management team, it comes in super useful to us. Obviously working with Jameson Carey at the moment, there's so much going on there with the store and the expansions. And I've been able to tap into Sarah's expertise in the PR side. So we've been able to focus on making sure that these major milestones that are happening for Jameson Carey are, communicated correctly, that we're getting the press releases out there. And I think having that PR division and that PR expertise within the business has been really key for all the account managers in ways that we can support our clients with that as well. So it's supporting your own client teams, but also supporting the account management team, which has been great.
Yeah. So
Thank you, Andrew.
Not just your own clients, you're helping the other account managers with theirs as well from a PR perspective. So some final thoughts, Sarah. What advice would you give to someone who's maybe wanting to get into PR or even just become an account manager?
So I think if we start with predominantly the PR account management piece, you have to know what's in the news. I mean, it seems simple, but you need to keep abreast of the news, read the newspapers, know which journalists are writing which columns, who can you approach about a specific story. You really have to know journalism and journalists inside out to understand what they're looking for.
And I suppose in Aberdeen, good local knowledge of the energy sector as well.
Exactly, absolutely. So it's almost knowing a little bit about everything, which sounds kind of crazy because there's a lot of things you need to know about. But working across all the various industry sectors, we do need to know a little bit about everything. So yeah, you need to be really inquisitive. You need to be patient with people. And yeah, obviously the key things are good communication skills and a good use of the English language, obviously.
Okay, that's been really insightful. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast yet again.
So we're now saving the best to last. We now have Weronika, Junior Account Manager. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Veronica, welcome to the podcast room.
Hi.
You know, I can't believe it's taken us up until episode 8 to get you on the podcast. Where have you been?
Just working away.
Just busy.
Busy, yep.
Busy. Your role's slightly different. You're a junior account manager here. So, look, why don't you start off by just telling us a little bit about you and your background?
Okay, so I studied at Edinburgh Napier University. I studied business and marketing, and after graduation, I went straight into agency life.
So, first gig out of graduating was in agency?
Yes, yeah.
And this is the second agency you've been with?
Yes.
How are you finding it?
I love Mearns & Gill. Mearns & Gill is fun. I love the people here. It's just great.
We didn't pay her to say that.
We didn't pay her to say that. But you know what? It's everyone has said that.
I maybe did.
Yeah, Andrew did.
We really are fortunate to have a really good culture. It's a fun place to work. We're all busy, but everyone has fun along the way. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your role? Because it is slightly different from the other account managers that we've spoken today. So tell us about it.
So I get to work with basically every single client just because I help all the account managers, which is good because I get involved in a lot of different things.
So as a junior account manager, you will work alongside the other account managers to support on their accounts. But that gives you a lot more experience and exposure to different clients.
Yes, definitely. So I get involved in basically everything from newsletters to helping out with videos and just basically everything.
And I think what's great, you play it down a little bit, Veronica, when you say support, but I think what I love with the account management team and with Veronica supporting it is she's not just supporting, actually we can pass off, tasks. There's lots of things that are part of my role that, Veronica maybe started off supporting me on, but she's taken on like leadership and does it all herself. So yeah, you maybe start off in a supporting role, but there's so many things that she's then just taken on and ran with herself, which I think is great that we can all support and kind of grow that way and develop.
Yeah, and a lot of the account managers within our team are kind of good generalists across the board. Sarah obviously specialises more in PR. Is there an area of the business that you say interests you or your skills kind of lend itself better towards?
Probably writing as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I love writing. I love newsletters, magazines. I'm working on 2 magazines at the moment. So yeah, definitely writing.
Great.
Oh, and I also write the Mearns & Gill newsletter.
That's quite a big deal. You really downplay all this.
The content is so good. Definitely sign up to that.
Yeah.
So I guess as well as supporting the account managers with their clients, do you have any of your own clients?
Yes, I do actually have 4 of my own clients that I got this year, which is exciting. It's new. I get to be more direct with our clients, which I am enjoying at the moment. Yeah.
And what type of projects do you enjoy? Do you enjoy any specific kind of projects more than others?
So most of my clients are social media management based. So it's a lot of social content, weekly and scheduling. But we're also working now, one of my clients, Safety Scotland, has their 20th anniversary. So we're creating projects for them as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Veronica, I think one thing to add as well is, unlike most of the account management team, you're quite unique in the fact that you're working in-house for one of our clients as well.
Yes, so I work in-house for Total Energies as their internal comms executive. I get involved in a lot of things like their own internal magazine. I help write their newsletter. and just get involved in a lot of internal campaigns.
That must be quite interesting for you because you're actually getting experience of what internal marketing looks like as well.
I am enjoying it, and I feel like that's a good learning experience for me.
So we're about to wrap up with you, Weronika, but a couple more questions, quick fire questions. Best thing about Mearns & Gill, go.
The people, but also Mike's monthly poll where you get to vote for snacks.
Yeah, we've heard about this.
Yes, and the most recent winner of the monthly snacks is
Oreo cookies.
Oreo cookies.
Can't wait for those. Yeah.
They're not going to last long around here, are they?
No.
Not with Graham.
No, not with Graham
Graham.
especially.
Oh God. Yeah, and I guess most embarrassing moment.
So I didn't know till this morning, but Andrew said that my most embarrassing moment is me reversing the car into the wall.
Oh yeah.
The company car.
A couple of times. No, mine.
Oh, your own
Thank
car.
God it was not the company car.
That's fine. Veronika, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
This episode of the podcast has been a little bit different this week. You know what? I'm a little bit gutted because we never got to do Case Study Corner.
I know.
But we have spoken about a lot of case studies throughout the whole podcast. So that's just about it for this episode, and where we've covered a lot of interesting stuff on account management. Aimee, do you want to give us a little bit of a recap on some of the takeaways from today's episode?
Of course. So we've heard it a lot. Jack of all trades, master of none. That tends to be a key takeaway from the account managers. Also, having good communication skills and regular catch up with your clients is essential.
Yes.
Planning is also key. Having good listening skills so you know exactly what your client wants to achieve, and then you can plan how you're going to get there. Being a trusted advisor, trying to find ways to problem solve, collaboration with your team, being an extension of the team, like Sarah said, and overall kind of building good relationships with your client, having a positive attitude, being reliable. They're all kind of key for being a good account manager for your clients.
I think that just about covers it from the wild world of account management. Big thank you to Andrew for being here for all of the podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
We'll have to find an excuse for you to come on another podcast very soon. And Veronika, you're still here. Thank you as well to you and the rest of the account management team. As always, if you'd like to know more about anything we've spoken about on this episode, just drop us a line.
Yep, you can find us on Instagram at Mearns Gill. You can also find Mearns & Gill on Facebook, LinkedIn or online.
Yes, that's right. And now you can also even send us a text directly from your podcast platform. So if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, there is a little button you can press and you can text us directly. We'd love to hear from you. So there we go. That is a wrap on the episode on account management.
Yep, and you know what's happening next week, Pete?
I think I can guess. What is it?
We are going to cover events, which is my jam, so I'm very excited about that.
Aimee and the events team on the podcast next week. I'm a little bit nervous, but that is next time. Thank you very much, guys.
See you soon.
We'll see you next time.